the strike that was just called off marks the fourth labor action since President Bola Tinubu's inauguration a year ago. Now, Tinubu's administration has ended the fuel subsidy that previously kept prices low and has stopped pegging the national currency, the naira, to the US dollar. Now, these policy changes have plunged the country into one of the worst economic crises in a generation. Now, unions have threatened to strike again in 7 days if their demands are not met through ongoing negotiations. Now, real estate survey and public affairs analyst Mustafa Ewela is here with me to discuss more on the impact of the strike that was just called off. Good morning to you, Mustafa.
Thank you very much for having me, Justin.
All right, let's just talk about the strike. First of all, let me just get your candid opinion. Did you really think it was actually necessary?
So I think that to start with, I think that strike was very unnecessary. In the past few years, I think we've had too many strikes in the last few years. And if you look at other neighboring countries, they don't get strike before anything happens.
So how could labor
I think at this time in Nigeria, we should have gotten to a point where we can settle issues without having to go on a national strike.
But then, okay, I'm not trying to play devil's advocate here, but
yes,
how is that possible? Because before the strike,
yes,
there were negotiations, there had
yes,
been talks, and ultimatum was given, and it elapsed. So what could have been the better way to handle that?
Okay, so we have the tripartite committee that makes up the guys from the government agencies, the ministers for labor, employment. We also have the NLC, we have the TUC.
And
yes,
the
they've been series.
sector.
Yes, even the informal sector. So there've been series of meetings before they, went on this strike. However, I think that again we should have gotten to a point in this country where we do not necessarily have to shut down the system totally to get results for certain demands from the government. The last time there was a national strike in the United Kingdom was 1920. A national major one was in 1926. So are you telling me that they don't have demands the labor force don't have demands from the federal government in the United Kingdom?
Still putting it this way, labor force has demands, and maybe they have a government who listens and plans ahead, because analysts have also said that the minimum wage is subject to review every 5 years, and if before now we shouldn't have waited this long to get our act. That even the act that we have been using has expired since April. So why were we putting the horse before the cart?
Okay, so the thing is, to start with again, I think that our current minimum wage, 30,000 naira, which is equivalent to $24, for me, I think is a total national embarrassment.
Okay.
To a country like Nigeria. So the current minimum wage law expired April 19, precisely 2024, which was just a few months back.
Yes.
And the NLC felt that there was a need to revise it upward. But however, I still also think that what the NLC is clamoring for, which is a sum of 495,000 naira, is very, very unrealistic.
Okay, fine.
And I think that it is high time we wake up from our slumber and live in our reality. Nigeria as a country cannot pay a sum of 495,000 naira for minimum wage.
Okay.
Even the country that has the highest minimum wage, Luxembourg, anywhere in the world. Luxembourg is a country of 605 people, 1,000 people. I tell you, what they only major on is agriculture. And these countries are countries who do not even have the numbers we have.
Okay.
They say that there's power in numbers. That's what I grew up to hear. Nigeria is a country of 220 million people, but I'm beginning to think that the more we are in this country, the bigger our problems.
Okay.
So that's my personal opinion. So I think that it is high time we learn to address issues as a people in a very amicable manner. We cannot, shutting down the national grid, shutting down the system totally was a complete fiasco. On Monday, practically, there was nothing happening in the whole of the country. As we speak, the national grid has not been turned on as we speak, and they've called off the strike for at least 1 week. So are you telling me that whoever turned off the national grid has not heard that information that the strike has been called off?
Yeah.
So these are issues that are affecting us as a people. We will continue to say that we want a better Nigeria.
Yes.
But for us to have a better Nigeria, our leaders have to be totally responsible. We, the followers, also have to be totally responsible. It has to be a unanimous decision to say, let's
Get it
stop,
right.
let's get it right once and for all, and let's stop to do things the same old ways and expect a different result.
Get different result. Well, arguably though, at least I had to sleep with power last night. I don't know how the situation.
I guess you're very lucky. I don't think that the whole of Lekki has had lights in Monday. The whole of Lekki.
Oh wow. Okay.
since
But
Monday,
most part of some part. Let me not say most because I didn't do a survey. But at least I know in coming hours Nigerians will get to see power. But that I'm not trying to hold breath for the electricity workers. You have said it that the airports were shut down, maritime workers, the hospitals. I even felt that because I had a relative who was even discharged before time. They were all asked to go home. The nurses were not attending, to patients anymore. But in all of that, in your opinion now, what exactly would you say is a reasonable or minimum or living wage as it is? You made reference to Luxembourg, less than a million.
600,000 people.
Okay, fine, but we have the numbers, and indeed we have all the resources, which we are not really managing well. But then, how do we begin to harness those resources, and what do you think is reasonable enough?
Okay, so let me start with, I like to always draw or make a close by African country. I like to always make them a case study. A country like Ghana, the minimum wage in Ghana is about 18.5 Ghanaian cedis. If you put that to Naira, that's about 1,800 Naira per day. Per day, yes. If you convert it to, if you do the multiplier effect in 30 days, that's well over 50,000 Naira minimum wage monthly for workers. So 30,000 Naira minimum wage, 60,000 Naira minimum wage. I think that if we do something within the region of 100,000, 150,000 Naira, I think that would be fair.
Okay.
We talk our inflation right now. Anybody earning anything less than 100,000 Naira in this country cannot survive. You see, it is always very good that we take these problems systematically. Let me tell you, one of the root causes of all our problems in this country is as a result of what workers earn. If you have somebody who is gainfully employed to your organization, either at the private sector or public sector, if you pay them anything ridiculously low, one, there's not going to be anything to motivate them to work.
True.
Secondly, that's the genesis of corruption. These people also have
steal
families.
from the system.
They will steal from the system. I had the case of somebody who worked in a certain company and had to go and register a company in a separate name that looked very similar to the organization that she works with. She registered the company, even got a POS machine. So when people come to vend to pay, she gives them her own personal POS that she registered in a name very close to the company's name. And she was milking the company until they found out recently. So this is what happens when people don't get paid properly. They will cut corners, and that is it. I mean, in a country where our senators earn over 30 million naira monthly, and we are paying a minimum wage of $24, it is very laughable.
So, in your opinion, do you think, as a way of mitigating all of that, government, that is the legislature, the executive, and maybe the judiciary should also cut down the cost of running in the operations or even their own emoluments?
So for people like me, I've always clamored for reduction in cost of governance. Cost of governance for me is too ridiculous. If our political office holders earn so much, and the masses, the general masses, those who are supposed to be the one, even because as a leader, you're a servant. Those we are leading are suffering, and you as the head, you are milking them off the national commonwealth. Then that's a problem. That's why those political seats will continue to be very juicy, and people will do anything to get there. But so generally, I think that something has to be done. We are not saying that 60,000 naira is okay, but I think something within the range of 100 to 150 is a good start.
Okay, okay, fine. Another line of thought would be the federal government. Okay, in as much as we experts have said that the 494,000 that Labour is demanding might be a bit outrageous. Yes. But the federal government had come out to say that it would amount to about 9.5 trillion annually. So if the federal government had the willpower or the body language to pay, are you suggesting that they should actually source the funds from what they are paying themselves to, to augment what they should be paying the common man on the streets?
So I think that realistically, that's what should happen. If they want to really be fair with us, what they are earning is too outrageous.
True.
Cut down the cost of governance. Use those funds to improve the lives of people in a better way. If you had those funds, if you had the cost of governance, if you take off even 50% of what they are earning and add it to the minimum wage of what people are earning, lives of people will be better.
True.
People are suffering. That's the honest truth. I lost count of people sending me account details in the past 2 weeks for any. Yeah. And these are family men. So you wonder how. That's why. So to live in a country where your take home cannot even take you home is a problem.
Okay.
To live in a country where the minimum wage cannot take an average Nigerian out of poverty is a problem. In America, the minimum wage in Canada, the minimum wage per hour is $25 per hour. But in Nigeria, minimum wage is done on a monthly basis. So when you earn 30,000 naira monthly, that's about 1,000 naira per day. The cost of living has increased. Now, so I had to interview somebody who was looking for a job in my organization, and when she did calculation of our monthly expenses on transportation, it was close to 80,000 naira. And she was going to be earning 100,000 naira. I felt really bad. I was like, how do you even want to manage? So you'll be spending. So people work in this Lagos, they earn 50,000 naira and spend close to 100,000 naira on transport. How do you think they'll make up for the other half of the money? How do you think they'll make up for their cost of living and all that? They'll cut corners. True. So this is the root cause of the problems that we find ourselves in this country. If wages are not paid appropriately, if minimum wage don't increase to commensurate with our cost of living, if they don't match up, there's going to be a problem. And that's why you continue to see a lot of irregularities in the system.
All right. Now, so over the past 48 hours right now, economic activities were stalled. And I was trying to speak to an economist just get appropriate statistics as by how much it cost Nigeria to be on standstill, and he was saying something in the trillions of naira. But in all of this now, we are looking for alternative dispute resolution. Now, if you were to advise now Labour, in as much as they have a 5-day window that they have proposed for government to sort out the issue of minimum wage, what should they be doing in as much as they are still bent on getting the best for the Nigerian workers, and federal government is saying that they don't have so much to pay? Where do we reach a common ground? So to both parties, what would you advise them?
Yeah, so my biggest fear is that even the minimum wage at the rate of 30,000 naira, some state governors are finding it very hard to pay.
Yeah, that's the issue.
That's my biggest fear. And when this is also increased,
it's like, let's even analyze that proper. It's like they are finding it difficult to pay, or they are not really channeling their efforts to getting the internally generated revenue, and that's why they're not paying, or they're using the monies for their own personal stuff.
So some state governors, in most cases, spend such monies on other projects. But I think that's the misplaced priority.
Okay.
The labor force should be the first, the workforce should be the first priority. The workers, the public servants should be the first priority. If workers don't have food in their belly, what projects are you doing? Who are you doing it for? When the old citizens in the state dies, who are you doing those projects for? You know what I mean? So who are going to be the beneficiaries of such projects? So I think the first priority should be the people. There's power in the people, there's power in the numbers, but again, I'm beginning to question that assertion or that narration, because it's supposed to be the more the merrier. As the people, we are more in numbers. It's so unfortunate that even countries that are even lesser in numbers are doing better than us. So I think that what should happen is, because now some state government, like I said, are finding it very difficult to pay even that 30,000 naira. So what I think the federal government needs to do is to probably up the allocations to each state, and also mandate each state governor to also look for other ways of generating funds for their states. They cannot totally depend on the federal government's allocation for paying wages to workers. As a state, Lagos State is very lucky because it's a state of over 22 million people. There's a lot of economic activities going on. So it's a bit, the Lagos State governor is having it easy. Yeah, but I'll put it like that. So other states that are not as lucky as Lagos State should also think of, we have this land resources, there's land, think of projects that will make your state a viable state that people will come to come and invest and all that. But I mean, don't just be redundant. That's the problem. So some governors assume office and they just want to maintain what they meant. They don't want to establish and bring in new initiatives to open up the state, and that's a problem. So there's a lot of resources in this country. We are very blessed. I've said it now that the richest country, that the countries that pays the highest minimum wage in the world, top 4. Luxembourg, the minimum wage in a month is close to $3,500. That's almost $5 million monthly. They only depend on agriculture.
Okay.
They don't have crude oil. They don't have anything. So how are they doing it?
Okay.
So we need to take a cue from there.
All right, Mustafa, the final word from you right now for the average Nigerian who is watching and is hanging on the balance, putting their faith to the government and the labor. What would you say to them as we round off?
So they say that there's light at the end of every tunnel, and I know that this country is blessed. We just need to work with our leaders and help them make this thing also very easy. Our leaders also needs to put us in a lot of consideration. There will be no country to govern if the whole Nigeria or the whole country dies of hunger. There's hunger in the land, and we need to do better than that.
All right, thank you so much, Mustafa. That's where we rest the case for today. We just hope that at the end of the day that they'll be able to put smiles on the faces of Nigerians, because indeed most Nigerians go to bed without food in their stomach. Thank you so much, Mustafa.
Thank you for having me.
All right, my guest has been Mustafa Iwenlahe. He's a real estate surveyor, and of course he's a public affairs analyst, and we have been looking at the issues in Nigeria, the minimum wage and tobacco, the impact of the industrial action that was just called off yesterday, and how Nigerians are indeed trying to just beat their ends by the day. Well, we'll rest the show for today, and I will return again some other time. My name is Justin Akadonye. Many thanks for being a part of the show. Bye for now.